down in the Bitterroot, there's a Gologly Hot Springs. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
There was a Wes Gologly who was a Michigan law graduate. And what the connection with the Gologly Hot Springs was, I don't know. He used to come down there a lot. A good friend of my mother's. They used to do a lot of fish. Les Sheridan and Wes Gologly and my mother loved to fly fish. She was the women's unweighted champion fly caster in Montana for years. Wow. They used to fish the Bitterroot River a lot, and it must have been good fishing.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if the Gologly thing had to do with the Dalys being around hot springs.
I have no idea.
Going out to Europe for the hot springs.
Wes Gologly's daughter's still alive, and they owned a big place on Lake Angeles in Michigan. They had some connection to Butte.
Well, I wonder if it'd be possible to get copies of the pictures of the mansion. You know, get pictures of.
Well, I'll give you. Yeah, let me dig. I don't know where they are. Let me dig them out. And as I say, I can't identify.
Yeah. And then Marcus Daly III. What happened to him?
Well, he married Janet, who I thought was. I was in love with her. My sister was in love with Marcus. She was down there, and I don't know how old at the time. They weren't married. But he married Janet, and he was a student at the University of Montana. He built a beautiful home there in Missoula. And my mother and father and Alice and I visited him at his home in Missoula several times. It was a beautiful home. And the one thing I remember about it was he had a shooting range in the basement that he had built in, and it was brick. But anyway, I think he owned an auto dealership in Missoula, just as he didn't need the money. And I know that he was very close to Mike Mansfield because he was a student of his and gave him a lot of money when he started running for Congress. And then Darlene probably knows the story better than I do, but then he and another fella swapped wives, and apparently it was consensual. And as I told Darlene, I'd like to see what he got in the swap, because I thought Janet was darling. And then he moved to Las Vegas, or Reno, I can't remember which. And Tom Taylor, my uncle, my mother's brother, kept, they were friends and they kept in track of each other. But as I understand it, he married a series of showgirls down there and never had any children. And then I think he at one time owned a part of Wild Horse Island in the Flathead, didn't he?
I don't know.
And the story, all of this, John, is, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the story is that one of these showgirls showed up in the airport in Kalispell or wherever, with Richard Burton, the actor that was married to, what's her face?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor, and then they were both drunker than hell, and they went to Wild Horse Island and spent some time there together. But you asked what happened to Marcus Daly. God, he died at 50, didn't he?
The first Marcus Daly?
The third.
The third, I don't know.
I think he died at the age of 50.
Down in Las Vegas?
Yeah. It's funny, and when I was in the Navy, I ran into a guy that had worked, a sailor, who had worked tiling Marcus's Daly's something or other in one of his houses there in Las Vegas. He just And I think he was a diabetic. You know, Marcus Daly was a diabetic senior, and I think Marcus the third was diabetic too.
Did all the girls, did Molly Gerard and her husband, the Browns, did they all have their own private railroad cars?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'd never heard that.
Yeah, okay.
It wouldn't surprise me with the Gerards. I don't know why they'd need one.
Yeah. Well, that's about it. We used up our time. Thank you very much.
I don't know.